Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for December 1st through 7th, aka the week of the Queer Lit Readathon, round 4. This week I read, and I'm gonna read it off my phone because there's no way I'm gonna remember these numbers because I'm very tired. 5 books, 1 essay, I watched 2 shows, I watched 2 movies, and I listened to 1 audiobook. I feel like I had a really successful week. I did record clips for a reading vlog that will come out hopefully mid this week, depends on what my work schedule thinks about that, but that is forthcoming. I did not complete all of the books on my TBR, but I still feel like I did a fantastic job, and I actually blacked out the bingo board, so that's fine. First this week I finished Orpheus Girl, which was our group read for the Queer Lit Readathon. This is a book about 2 girls that fall in love in Texas and then are found out and sent to a conversion camp. This is also a very loose retelling of the Orpheus and Eurydice myth. It's more so referencing to that myth than a straight up retelling, but I feel like this story is very important and still very prevalent in today's society because we can think, oh yeah, bad things happen to queer people in, countries that aren't our own or what for, but bad things are still happening even in Canada, even in the States, even in the UK. And just because I'm privileged enough that I didn't have to worry about going to a conversion camp, especially because I came out when I was 30, not only is this important history, it's important to things that are currently happening in the world. And if you want to hear somebody articulate much more clearly about this, Jean actually did a fantastic job of doing so in her Queer Lit vlog, which I was definitely watching before this instead of recording this video because I love Jean to pieces. I will make sure to link her vlog down below because she said the words that I wish I could have said in my upcoming vlog. So I think it is worth watching her thoughts. She's also going to be doing a complete review of that book for various different sites and for herself, and she's just wonderful, and if you're not already following Jean, you should. So there you go. The next book I finished was Sweet Blue Flowers Volume 1. This is a manga. It's a slice of life type of situation between a couple of girls that fall for each other. One of them also has a crush on this other person that is not an attainable person, and then another person has a crush on her. There's a lot of crushing back and forth. It's a lot of high school type of situation. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't super memorable to me, and the problem I have with this artist, because I realize it's the same artist as Wandering Sun, is the characters, although they're probably drawn in a way that they seem very dissimilar to the artist, I get them confused all the time. And the thing is, at the beginning of the volumes you have these full-page color guides explaining who the characters are, but the manga is not in color, so if I could be like, oh, the one with the blue hair is this character from the color guide, that would help me. But I can't, and I don't pick up on the little details of like, oh, this is the character that always wears a tie. I don't pick up on those details, so it takes me a while to be like, which character is this? Who's in love with who now? I don't know. That being said though, I obviously enjoyed it. I tore right through it. It is quite a thick volume and I got through it very, very quickly. The next book I finished was Black Iris. I originally picked this up because I know that Melanie from Mel to the Any really loves this book, and it's what made her realize that she is pan and come out about that, and I wanted to read it just based on that. I actually had no idea what this book was about. And now having read it, it's really hard to describe it without giving anything away because this does move around quite a bit in timeline. We start with our main character stumbling home after a party in the morning and she doesn't want to get caught by her mom, and then something tragic occurs, and we back and forth between the terrible time she was having in high school and what's happening with her new friends in college. There's a lot of discussion about her sexuality, but there's also a lot of elements in this that are cheating, just straight up. They seem like cheating to me. So if that's one of your triggers, because I know a few people have that as a trigger, this might not be your favorite thing in the world, but I think that you should stick with it. I know that seems incredibly vague, but I also don't want to give anything away. What I can say is I really enjoyed how this was written. The protagonist is a writer and she straight up tells you that she is an unreliable narrator and that you're not going to like her, and she doesn't have a redemption arc, and I found that really fascinating. Next I finished Our Bloody Pearl. We start this book with a siren who has been previously captured by a pirate and has been living inside of a pirate ship in this tank basically, and they've been weighed down so they can't get out of the tank, and they've been shackled, and then the pirate ship is attacked and a different pirate basically saves the siren. This is in a world where obviously people don't like sirens because sirens sing people to their deaths. this siren doesn't have the ability to sing right now, and the pirate that captured them previously has created some form of technology that blocks the siren song. This had a ton of queer representation in it. Firstly, our main character is non-binary. There's an asexual relationship between the siren and somebody else. There's a side female-female relationship where I feel like there's the possibility that one of them is a trans girl, although it wasn't specifically said on the page. Just the way that that character was talked about, I feel like that is quite a possibility. This is quite the grand adventure. It's about found family. There's quite a bit of disability rep in more than one character as well. This book just had a lot of representation, and it is very important for all of that. It's also the first in a series. I should probably get the other books as well because I feel like I'm going to enjoy how diverse this universe is and really enjoy it for that. Some of the writing wasn't the most elevated writing I've ever read, but I ended up really wanting to know what was going to happen with these characters. There's so many different dynamics with how the characters felt about their own kind versus the opposite kind if we're talking about sirens and humans, and I just want to learn more about kind of the society they're forming by the end of the book. Final book I finished this week was The Timekeeper. This again is also the start of a series of books. I don't know when I'm going to pick up all the sequels to these. I think that maybe one of the prompts for the next Queer Lit Readathon round should be reading a sequel, because that would really help me out. This is set in 1975 in London, and it's an alternative history to ours because it's kind of a steampunk era, and there's also these people who are mechanics at clocks because they can kind of control the web of time, and if these towers go down, the surrounding area, time stops working properly. And our main character, Danny, is the youngest mechanic on record, which has some problems because some people don't take him seriously, but he's been training for this for the last like 11 years and he's 17. His father is also a mechanic, however his dad 3 years previous was working at a tower that stopped, which means that nobody can get in and out of that town and time is stopped in that town, so they're trying to figure out how to fix that town throughout this book. And then the other interesting aspect is we find out that the towers themselves have spirits, which was a very interesting addition to this mythos and also where some romance comes in. The interesting thing about how this one ends is it does seem it just ends in a place where we don't really need to know more about this story, so I'm interested to see what the storylines would be in future volumes. I know that people really love this series, but I think what I like the most is it's not a cliffhanger. I don't have to immediately pick up the next book because I think we all know that's just not gonna happen. Finally, the last thing I physically read was an essay called Trip to Russia by Audre Lorde. I was originally going to read all of Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde, but I couldn't get my hands on a full physical copy, and although I thought I found a copy online, I just found a copy of this specific essay from it, and that's what I ended up reading. And I figured, because I was reading this in part for a new genre, just reading an essay fulfills that prompt. So I did it. This was all about a writing conference that she attended in Russia in the 70s. And I think for me what I found the most interesting is she was describing places that I have also actually been. She obviously went to more places in Russia than I did, but when she was talking about being in Moscow and going into, say, the metro, I was like, I know exactly what that looks like because I was there in 2004. If I had my choice of essays and just wanted to pick one of hers to read specifically for this readathon, I would have picked up one that had more to say specifically about queer culture. However, this one she did talk about queer culture a little bit, so it counts, but it's not the most queer thing I could have read in this genre. On to what I watched this week. My roommate and I continued watching the first season of Australian Survivor because if you weren't here when I talked about it before, we're not really down with how production handled things that are happening in the current season, so my roommate refuses to watch it anymore, and because we watch Survivor together, we're watching this because he loves this. Also, it's very different. This season starts out with 24 people, 3 tribes. They're there for 55 days. They only win $500,000 if they win, and there are some different things that happen. Sometimes there's episodes where nobody goes home. Surprise! So it's interesting to see the format that I'm now very familiar with be kind of turned on its head just by being set in a different place with different types of people and more of them and that type of thing. It is also just very weird that the host isn't Jeff. I had to be like, what is this new Jeff's name? Because I don't think that anybody said his name, and I'm sure he's famous in Australia, but I'm not from there. His name is Jonathan. Also, now that we finished all of Brooklyn Nine-Nine on Netflix and we needed a new show to watch, Chad and I are watching The Good Place. I had seen the first 3 episodes of this just over a year and a half ago and really enjoyed it, but I think at the time it wasn't on Canadian Netflix and I had been watching it in the States, so I just never got around to watching it, and now I think there's 3 seasons on there and I am very much enjoying it. If you've never seen it before, it's about this woman who dies and is told that she has gone to the good place, but she comes to realize that she is not the person that they think she is, and she's somehow gotten into the good place, which is very difficult to do, but she shouldn't be there. However, she doesn't exactly want to go to the bad place, so she enlists the help of somebody who is actually a good person to teach her how to become a good person, because she was not a good person in her life. She was kind of garbage. I'm very much enjoying the characters, the relationships. It's also partially made by the same people that make Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I didn't realize when we started it, and that was not my intention, but it's fun to see a character or two pop up that you're like, hey, we just watched you in 6 seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, what's up? On to the movies we watched this week, the first one being Dr. Sleep. Oh my goodness, this was such a fantastic movie. So I read the Dr. Sleep book when it first came out, and I think I read it back to back with Revival, which is another book of Stephen King's that is like the sequel to a book he had written much previous. And I think in my mind I kind of might have smushed them together, so I didn't really know what to expect going into this. Besides, I knew it was going to have some references to the Kubrick Shining, because that just made sense based on the trailer I'd seen, and I was very excited that Ewan McGregor was in it because I love him. What I highly suggest is watching The Shining before going into this movie, because there are so many little details that are directly lifted and then reprised from The Shining, the Kubrick version, that it's just so delightful. The sound design, the set design, they had to redo all of these sets of the Overlook Hotel, and it was like the exact same carpet, for example. Like, it was done so well. There are also these scenes that are very reminiscent of scenes from that movie, and it was just amazing. The cinematography and the way that the camera moved was also very similar. It was just very good. They even refilmed certain iconic moments of the previous movie with the actors from this movie, and it was just so very well done. I very much enjoyed it. Rose was such a fantastic character. I keep wanting to just be like, hi there to people, which is very creepy, and you will understand that if and when you see Dr. Sleep. The other movie we watched has a funny story. It is from 1997, and it's called Devil's Advocate. We watched this because I saw it pop up on Prime, and I went, I watched that when I was a kid, and it's really not a kid's movie, but I watched it because a babysitter was watching it. But all I remember was it was not very appropriate, and Chad said, do you want to watch it? And I said, sure. And we spent a lot of the film going, oh, this is not for children. I mean, firstly, it's an 18+ movie. I would have been 11 or 12 when I watched it. Although, obviously, I was very mature. I was reading books with swearing at that point and everything. This movie is about a lawyer, played by Keanu Reeves, who works in Florida and has been on this streak of never ever losing a case. And we start off with him defending this pedophile and getting this pedophile off, which is obviously very uncomfortable. Even he's uncomfortable about it. From this, he's got this offer to go to New York to be a jury selector, and then from there he gets this big New York job working for this dubious company, and things happen. All I really truly remembered from when I watched it when I was a child was Al Pacino is the devil, and that's all you really need to know going in. Finally, to completely switch lanes from the literal devil to a kid's book, I listened to George by Gino, and this was a fantastic experience. George is a middle grade book about a 4th grade student who is coming to terms with the fact that they are a trans girl. When her school is putting on a production of Charlotte's Web, she really wants to play Charlotte because she highly connects to that character. So her and her best friend cook up this scheme for her to audition for that role instead of one of the male roles. This book is absolutely heartwarming and fantastic. It made me want to reread Charlotte's Web, which is definitely something I read as a child. It had a fantastic mixture of characters that were welcoming and accepting and characters that just didn't get it, but you could see them maybe getting it down the line. It was great. There was a reason why people highly love this book. The only contentious thing is that the book is called George and the character would prefer to be called Melissa, and that is a line very near the beginning, and the fact that it's called George but she would love to go by Melissa has been something that people have been thrown off by. Either way, it is about a journey, and it is a fantastic book. If you participated in the Queer Lit Readathon, thank you so much for doing so. The 2020 dates have been announced, so I will post that video in case you missed it. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!